To kind of cope with all those feelings that I was experiencing, I started cutting. For some reason, I felt relieved. I felt like my life was so completely and utterly out of control that this kind of pain, the pain where I could see and do to myself, was something that I could control. And yes, it hurt, but it felt like I was finally regaining some control in my life. My brother and I growing up were the typical brother-sister relationship. He was the most kind-hearted, funny person that I had ever met. He had straight A's. He was an all-star athlete. He started varsity football first string when he was only a freshman in high school. So he was typical kind of jock, popular kid that everyone seemed to like and flock to. It was my freshman year of high school when I got a phone call that my brother was in the hospital, that he had overdosed on his leftover pain medication. He didn't really know how to react. Unfortunately, our best way possible was to sweep it under the rug because we didn't want anybody to know. That same year, my brother took my father's gun and committed suicide, and it tore my world apart. My brother was everything that I'd ever known, and I'd never pictured my life without him. I felt like it was all my fault. Knowing that he was upset and not doing anything about it, or feeling too ashamed to say anything, was my big secret and my deepest burden that I had carried. To kind of cope with all those feelings that I was experiencing, I dove deep into drugs and alcohol, and then I began to start self-mutilating myself. I started cutting. It wasn't long after I began cutting myself that I felt like it wasn't satisfying me anymore. And all I could think about was my brother and wanting to in a sense, be with him. After my 17th birthday, I made the decision that I was going to end my life. There was an assembly at my school called Emerge Experience. During the assembly, the man came out on stage and started talking about his life and the loss of his father and all the things that came with it, the feelings, the drugs, the alcohol, and it all sounded way too familiar. It felt as if he took a chapter out of my book and read it word for word. I honestly felt that this man might be the only person in the world that knew what I was going through. So I knew that I had to talk to him. I knew I had to at least thank him for coming to my school. He invited me to a Friday night event. I walk in and I notice that everyone's wearing matching t-shirts. And I think, what am I doing here? It was a Christian convention. I'd never really thought about God before other than being angry. If he was real, why didn't he help my brother? Next, the same guy that came to my school came up on stage. Come to find out, he's a pastor. And he started talking about God. And that was the first time in my life that I heard that God loved me where I was at. But hearing that God could love me through all my mistakes, that God could love me when I couldn't love myself, was huge. There was this change that I felt in my heart, getting to know this man named Jesus. I felt as if there might have been possibility for happiness. I wanted to know more about this person that could love me when I felt that I was this disgusting, this low scum of a human being. I stopped drinking, I stopped going to parties. I realized that I was so much better than what I was putting in my body or what I was doing to my body. And that if Jesus could love me, that I could begin to love myself. I found out about Jesus, his immense love for me, that I'm a daughter of a king.